So we're in the middle of a series. It's called It's About Time. If you're a guest today, if it's your very first time here, a series is simply what we do at our church here at Wellspring is we tackle topics. And so right now, for the last 2 weeks, starting this weekend, next week, we're talking about time. And the reason we're talking about time is because it is a universal issue. For most of us, it's a universal struggle. To feel like you have enough time, to feel like you have enough time for the right things, to feel like you have enough time to breathe, to really enjoy your life. And so for the last 2 weeks, we've been talking about what God has to offer and how God can speak into our time. And if what you hear today is intriguing to you, especially if you're first time, if you're joining us online today, I would really encourage you when we're done today to maybe at some point this week, check out this website. Go to wellspringchurch.tv/itsaboutTime. We have the last 2 weeks there. This sermon will be there if you want to go back and watch it again. Next week will be there. But I really do encourage you to go back because we have covered a tremendous amount of content over the last 2 weeks. If you're here today and you haven't heard any of the content, I believe today will be relevant for you and helpful for you, but it would be more helpful if you go back and check it out. Because here's really what we've been talking about for the last 2 weeks. We've been talking about that when it comes to my life, your life, all our lives, that when God looks at us, okay, and he sees how busy we are, and he sees we're running and never really feeling like we have time to breathe. This is how I believe God feels about us. I believe that God wants better than busy for your life. I believe he wants better than busy for my life. I believe he wants better because busy often blocks what's best. Now, if you were here last week, you know I told quite an embarrassing story that I will not repeat about myself. And about how busy blocked best in my life. So if for nothing else, go back and watch last week, and you will feel morally superior to your pastor. That is my gift to you. But we've all had experiences in our life where we look back and we regret a decision, we regret something we did, we regret an action because we were so busy, we were so overwhelmed that we were blocked from seeing what was best in that moment. And so the key to all of this, which is really the key to life, by the way, is to invite God into the discussion, to invite God into how you manage and use your time. So we've really been asking one simple question for this entire series, and it's this. It's God, is this the best use of this time in my life? And last week we really nailed down on this God part. God, is this the best use of this time in my life? Because what we talked about last week is that most of us, most of the time, don't use God as our standard. We don't use God as our guide for our time. We use our neighbor, we use our boss, we use our coworkers, we use our employees. We kind of allow the culture around us to dictate how we spend our time. And what we talked about last week is that God wants better for us than that. But if we want better, we have to try something different. And so last week I kind of left you with a challenge. I challenged you to try something very different in your life. If you feel busy, if you feel overwhelmed in your life, I challenge you to go home and to spend some time last week trying as hard as you can to create a to-don't list. Not a to-do list, a to-don't list. What are some things you can stop doing? And one of the tools I gave you to do that was to change the conjunction you use about activities in your life. So many of us say and. We say soccer and basketball. We say this charity and that charity. We say this fantasy football league and that fantasy football league. We say this golf tournament on Friday and this hunting trip on Saturday. We should probably stop saying and start saying or. Start learning how to make choices. So that's kind of where I left you last week. And here's what I hope. I hope that if you were here last week, or maybe you spent some time thinking about this, maybe you talked with your spouse, maybe you talked with your families, or maybe you just kind of reflected on it as you were in the car and you're like, okay, whatever, I'll try to come up with a to-don't list. What would I stop doing? And now, for some of you, maybe as you thought it through, maybe there were some glaring things. Maybe you realized you were in 10 fantasy football leagues. And you're like, probably shouldn't be in 10. I'm not going to win them anyway. I'm just going to lose 10 times. So just drop it down a little bit. But for most of us, right, for most of us, there was no glaring, flashing red light of here's what you should quit. Because let's be honest, you're so busy. If there was anything that was that easy to quit, you would have already quit doing it. So what you probably discovered is that there's a lot of good things in your life. There's a lot of good things that you are doing. You can make the argument for why you should keep doing all of them. There's value in them. You're helping other people. And so the idea of actually trying to cut some things back, for some, may have actually been defeating. Because you're like, man, I just can't figure it out. I don't know what I should do. I don't know what the right thing is, what the wrong thing is. These are all good things. How do I know? How do I pick the best things? And that's what I want to help you answer today. Because I believe God wants the best for your life. And I believe God has a plan and a pathway to get you to the best things. And here's the great news today. Here's the great news. If you're here today, and if you don't believe in God at all, you're here because somebody invited you, you're just here because you didn't have anything else to do, and you came, but you're not really sure about this God thing, here is the good news today. What we are going to talk about today will work in your life, whether you believe in God or not. You are free to take this today. You are free to apply it in your life. You are free to try it out, and I am convinced it will make your life better. Because that's the cool thing about God. When God has a truth, it is true whether you believe in Him or not. And see, He so desperately wants a connection with you. He so desperately wants you to believe in Him and to trust Him that He's willing to allow His goodness to work in your life before you believe in Him. Now, I will warn you, if you apply this in your life, and if you begin to discover, you know what, God was right about time, here's what's going to happen. You're going to say, well, maybe God's right about my marriage. And maybe God's right about how to be a parent. And maybe God's right about everything. I believe that is the path that you'll go down. But don't worry about that right now. Right now, just listen today and be open to the idea that there might be some helpful content that can help you manage your time, help you breathe a little more, and to help you experience a better life. Because what we're really talking about is we want to gain some clarity around our priorities and our time. We want to gain some clarity around our decisions. What we're really looking for is a word we all know, but we don't really think about a lot. What we're really looking for is wisdom. That's really what we want. We want wisdom when it comes to making good, sound decisions with our time. Wisdom simply means experience, knowledge, and good judgment put into action. Now think about it. Think about if every time decision you made, every activity, every choice, you simply went through your experience, your knowledge, and your good judgment, and then put that into action. Now, the problem with talking about wisdom and how we need wisdom is what I've discovered is that most people think they're wise. No one feels like I'm unwise. I'm just reckless. I'm just making crazy decisions. But you are. We are. We live at Myrtle Beach. Broadway's like a block away. There's a lot of unwise stuff happening, right? There's not a lot of wisdom in. Nobody's thinking, I'm going to make a wise choice tonight. So everybody feels wise. Everybody thinks they're wise. And so I go back to where we were last week. How you know if you're actually making wise choices is do you really feel like you have a grasp on your time? Do you feel like you have control over it? Do you feel like you have time to breathe? Because if you don't, you're probably not making a wise choice. You're probably simply making the choice everybody else is making. And so my goal today is incredibly simple. For fact, some of you, it's just going to be so simple, you're going to kind of roll your eyes that there's no way that this is really it, but I promise you, man. One of the things I always like to say is following God's really not that complicated. We make it complicated. It really is pretty simple. And when it comes to our time, when it comes to how to spend our time, wisdom really is a key. In fact, my goal for you today is to really convince you one simple thing, and it's this. It's that the wisest choice is the best choice. The wisest choice is the best choice. When it comes to your time, and honestly, this is kind of a universal truth. When it comes to your money, when it comes to any financial decision, when it comes to I don't know, how to bring up something with your wife that might be tense. Make the wise choice, guys. Wisdom, baby, every time. The wisest choice is the best choice. So if you think about what we've been asking for the last 2 weeks, we've been saying,